Hey, this is Lana Scott with Lighthouse. I talked last time in my last video that I was going to start looking through my runes and was going to go through them all using Ralph Bloom's book, The Healing Runes. And yes, I realize it's backwards on the video. Can't help that. I'm not quite sure how to turn that around. I'm still learning a lot about YouTube. So, the rune, last time I pulled a different rune. I can't remember now which one it was. I don't have it in front of me. But for today, we've got Anzu, which normally means signals and communication and those type of things. But with the healing book runes, we deal with all the emotions. I mean, he goes through everything from innocence, trust, guilt, grief, gratitude, and just all these different emotions. And I want to talk about all of them. So today we're going to deal with where is it at there? That's Anzu. And of course, I realize it's backwards. It's the other way around. Okay? And it has to do with guilt. Guilt is something that all of us have gone through. And I'm going to first read you what his description is in here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. And I'm going to also share, because I'm a storyteller, I'm also going to share some of the things I've gone through with guilt myself. And at 59 years old, had plenty of it. So, in this he talks about, when you get this rune, remember to let the constraints of time, in other words, time going by, helping you in righting your relationship to yourself. Use this moment to bring quiet sense to whatever confusion or sadness you can be feeling. There's nothing you can do to change what's already happened. You just need to trust and turn it over to God, Spirit, however you see divinity. Guilt feeds on conflict because it's chaos, right? So if this rune relates to a situation where you feel blame, all you can do is ask of yourself is to face what's happened and to be honest and direct, and then do whatever you can to resolve the conflict and try to restore, if not harmony, at least balance. Okay? So it says, the rune of guilt fosters healing by reminding us that we need to make amends, especially if you're the one that did something wrong. For those who seek to heal situations from the past, I can't talk today, situations from the past, for what was done or left undone, it counsels you to open your heart and act. Like maybe you need to make a phone call. Maybe you can text someone. Maybe you can say, hey, we need to talk. You know, make a phone call and get together with whoever the problem you have with, wherever you feel guilty, whatever the situation is, and come face to face and do it, okay? It says, now's the time that you can bring order, clarity, and peace to the chaos of the past. And anytime you're feeling guilty and you've done something wrong, you do normally feel all those things. We feel all kinds of emotions, from the smallest little thing emotionally to being utterly terrified. You know, you can go from being peaceful and calm to everything in between, right? So when taking action to make amends, it's impossible and appropriate. Amends of the heart are always heard. If you turn it over to God or Spirit, your most profound healings can occur. If it seems that the conflict won't be resolved, allow yourself to feel powerless. Sometimes, especially if it's something with, like for me, I had the situation where when my ex-husband had passed away, I had felt really guilty for my marriage falling apart, losing my son because he got custody, and I carried that guilt for years. Even after my ex-husband passed away and my son came to live with me, I still suffered guilt. And it caused a lot of more problems for us because of my guilt. I let him get away with a lot more. I didn't work on having a good I tried to have a good relationship with him, and I let him talk to me any old kind of way. I mean, my guilt let me go through a lot of stuff, right? So, and when he passed, I had prayed for him to forgive me. And I'm going to tell you this little story. Most people think I'm crazy when I tell it to them. But I went through this, and I pull no bones about it. It's what I experienced, and you can take it or leave it. It's what happened to me. When my ex-husband passed away, I was working, and I got a phone call. And my youngest daughter's mother, I called her my mother-in-law, but me and him hadn't been married. But she called me, and she told me that he had passed away. And I ended up having to leave my job and go all the way from Tampa, Florida to Slidell, Louisiana to pick up my son. I cried the whole way there. And I swear to you, I could feel him sitting next to me the whole trip. And when I got there, I got Jonathan. We got all his belongings, and we made the long trip back to Tampa. And when we got there, I had had a long discussion with my son. And first of all, I realized how smart he was. I hadn't seen him in many years. He was about 12 years old at the time. And I was just flabbergasted at how smart he was. Okay? So when we got back to Florida, we got to my little apartment, and we were unloading all of his things, and we're coming in, bringing everything into the apartment. And I kept thinking I saw something in the closet. I wasn't sure what it was. And we were, I think the weather was getting kind of chilly or something. We were trying to hurry and get everything in. And all of a sudden, I just stopped. And I was looking in the closet, and I saw him. I saw Steve standing there. And he was laughing at me. I couldn't hear him, but I could see him. And I just continued to stare until my child was screaming in my ear, "Mom, are you all right? Mom, you all right?" And years later, when I went back and replayed that in my mind, and I still do on occasion, I realized something. The reason why he was laughing, he had forgiven me a long time ago. He had forgiven me for any problems that we had in our marriage, and he had moved on. I hadn't. I carried that guilt, and it still carried over into the relationship with my son. I no longer feel as guilty because I felt like I made a lot of mistakes, but guilt belongs in the past. You cannot carry something with you that has happened. I mean, a lot of times you carry guilt over something, or we can carry guilt over something where we felt bad about something with somebody else, and long after they've forgotten what the hell it was. So you can't carry that shit with you. You cannot carry feelings of guilt, remorse, sadness, because they can cripple you for the rest of your life. You just have to let that stuff go. Rather, you have to journal it, write it down on a piece of paper, one of my favorites, and burn it, or talking it over with a friend. Sometimes I talk things to death because I've got to get it out of my system. Because otherwise, being a Leo Virgo cusp, that shit sits on me. So don't let guilt ruin your life. Don't let, if you can fix it and it's your fault, do it. Try to talk to someone. If they're already passed, the dead can hear you. I firmly believe that. Matter of fact, considering Steve on occasion, when I'm in a really bad spot, he still will come visit me. And I don't care who believes me. I know he comes visits me. William Ard, my boyfriend that passed away 2 years ago, he came not too long ago. Sitting here minding my own business, doing something or other, and he just popped in, and I heard him in my head. "Hey there," and I think I said that in my last video too. And the dead do look over us. They do still love us. And no matter what relationship you had with that person, it's different on the other side. And I just know this because of my own intuition. So you have to let that stuff go. You cannot let guilt cripple you, debilitate you to the point where you can't move on. Sometimes the guilt is a lesson, something that you needed to learn. If you're feeling guilty, or you maybe do have this ruin in your life, or have something that you're going through, sometimes it's not always about mistakes that you have made. Sometimes it could be because you're considering maybe the restoration of your faith in troubled times, rebuilding the faith in yourself, rebuilding faith in those that you love, your families, your friends, your community. Sometimes it's just about rebuilding. But you've got to let go of any kind of guilt. You cannot carry something with you all of your life and never heal from it. And that's what my message has been about here. It's about healing yourself. Letting go of toxic people, toxic places, past situations. Because in the grand scheme of things, over time, all those, transgressions, stupid things you said, that's another thing. I'm famous for putting my foot in my mouth, and will feel guilty over something when the other person doesn't even think about it. It's like, what? You remind them about a situation and they say, "Oh, I forgot all about that." And it's still sitting on you, and you're thinking, "Well, I said this, or I did that." Let that shit go. let that go. Everything is meant to be a lesson. Everything is meant to make you a better person every day. So if there's something you feel guilt about and you can talk to the other person about it, do. If not, write it down, write it on a piece of paper and burn it. Write a journal on it, pray on it, ask your own higher self for forgiveness. Allow yourself to let things that guilt belongs in the past. If it's something, especially something that happened years ago, let that crap go. Make sure that every day is a day to be a better person. So if you can find ways to be a better person every day, or something keeps coming up that still bugs you, write it down, think about it, talk about it with a friend, talk to a therapist. Do whatever you can to make yourself a better person every day. Because in the grand scheme of things, all those little bitty things, and some of them are little bitty, some of them aren't, but find a way to help heal yourself. Because from guilt and letting go and giving yourself the permission to forgive yourself is how healing starts. Because every day to be a better person, you need to heal all the baggage, all the stuff that's just sitting on you. Because guilt can totally destroy your life. Some people go into deep depressions. Don't let that happen to you. Do not let yourself get to a point where you are not living a full life. Life is about ups and downs, mistakes, happiness, joy, all the wonderful things that we can feel as human beings. So if you're feeling any kind of guilt about anything, rather, even sometimes I still feel guilty over realizing that this one, that one in the past, and things that mistakes I made in my marriages. I've sometimes realized I've let that stuff sit on me forever. And some of those people that I've loved in my life, they've passed away. Do you think they're feeling guilty on the other side or mad at me on the other side? You don't love we carry with us, anger we can carry with us, but you can let that stuff go. You have to give yourself permission to let that stuff go. So if you're finding that any kind of guilt is holding you back, or any kind of bad feelings, examine it and see where it's coming from. This is Lana Scott. Please heal yourself. Lana Scott, Lighthouse.